Is I want to go ahead and adjust my reference image plane. I just want to move this back off of my grid simply because whenever we create our lines, they're going to be created right along this origin line. So basically it'll be drawing these right on top of this reference image. And what I will be doing is moving our pieces back and forth, trying to get them separated from this image. So it's just easier to go ahead and move this right now. So let's just right click and unfreeze all. And we'll select our image plane, and we're just going to move it straight back in the Y, and just move it off the grid. If you want to move it back further, if you want to move it to the edge, that's fine. So we're just going to right click and then freeze our selection, and now we're ready to go. Okay, so let's go to our front view, and I'm just going to maximize the viewport here. And let's go ahead and start drawing out our frame. So what I want to do is just zoom in enough to where I can see the entire frame. And then I'm going to use my line tool and trace around the edge of this frame. So we're going to make sure that we're under the Create panel, we're under Shapes, under Splines, and then we're just going to use Line. So let's go ahead and click vertex points along the edge of our bike frame here. And I'm just clicking points and just kind of meeting the corners. And if I have a curve, I'm always going to put like a vertex in the middle of that. And I'm just going to drop one right here and cut right through here. I know that the frame doesn't actually come down this far, but that's okay. We can adjust this later. Now what I'm doing now is I'm actually putting vertex points down that are matching or corresponding to my previous vertex points that I've put down. So I have one here, so I want to put one right in this area. I have one here, so I want to put one here and here. There's one here as well. So what I'm doing is just matching these vertex points, just so they have a partner whenever we start building this spline cage. Now remember, this is asking us if we want to close the spline whenever we click on that first vertex that we first created, and we want to hit yes. Okay? So now we're ready to go ahead and edit this line here. Now before we do that, we want to right click one time because the line tool is still turned on. So that will end that line drawing process. And now we can go to our Modify panel, and we're going to go to Vertex mode. Now in the third lesson, we discussed using the spline modeling methods, and we're just going to go ahead and select these vertices. And what I'm going to do, just to make things a little bit easier to start out, I'm going to right click and go to Bezier Corner. And what I'm going to do is just adjust the handles of all these vertices to match my frame. So it's just kind of like tracing this out. So I'm just going to grab this handle here, and I have these frame accents, and I'm not following along with those. I'm just trying to imagine my frame that is actually underneath there. So we're just going to trace this out here, best of our ability. And if you need to, you can go ahead and just select around a vertex and move the individual vertex that way if you need to adjust that. Let's say it's not quite on our image, and you don't have to actually be exact with your vertices. I wouldn't obsess over this too much as I sit here and make sure that this is matched up properly. So we can really adjust these. Now you'll notice that I'm only able to move left and right. I can't move up and down. Remember that that's dealing with our move tool here. The X direction is constrained. We want to make sure that the X and Y are constrained. So we'll click right here on this box here, and I'm going to hit X so that way I don't change that direction any longer. And now we can adjust that line in any direction that we like here. And that will go ahead and stay. Okay, let's move this vertex here. And we're just going to trace this out all the way around. Now, this is one of those methods that you've just got to be patient with because it does take some time, but you really will get some really nice results. This is really great if we're trying to create some really specific details, especially during hard surface modeling like this. We've seen examples of this being used, and we've actually used examples like this for hard surface modeling in other lessons. So this is just a great little tool here to use. Now, we're going to be caging this out. Okay, we've built this spline around the outside, but what we're kind of doing here is we're actually creating the topology using splines of a 3D object. So let's go ahead and divide this out into quads as if we're thinking of polygons here. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to the Refine tool, and let me turn that off one more time. We want to actually make sure that we have Connect checked and Linear checked. And then we'll go to Refine, and we can click on individual points here. Now whenever we start the refining process, we'll get this dialog box that pops up, and basically what it's saying is you've just chosen a vertex. Are you wanting to plant a vertex right on top of it, or are you wanting to just connect to the existing vertex? And what we want to do is connect only. But before we do that, I want to check this do not show this message again, because I don't want to see it every single time I click on a vertex. So we'll hit connect only, and then we'll choose our next vertex, the corresponding one, and then we'll right click to end that, and you'll see that line pop up. So it's really important here. So let's try this one more time. Let's do refine. We'll click on this vertex and then the corresponding, and we'll right click, and that line will show up there. So we'll go ahead and we'll do this again, and we'll go all the way around. Now instead of hitting refine every single time and then right clicking, what I can do is go ahead and right click and do refine connect, and then we'll go across this. Okay, so now what we've done is we've gone ahead and we've built our spline cage, and we've made sure that we've blocked this out into quads for our polygons. Now this is going to be really important when we apply our surface modifier in the next lesson. Now what I want to do now is go ahead and get this detail right here in the middle, and we're going to draw that out. We're going to be using the same techniques that we've just done. So let's go to our Refine tool here, and we're going to refine this line here. So we'll do Refine, and we're just going to click points here along our segments that follow along with our reference image. So I'm doing the outside of this line because it's going to give me kind of like a little flat spot just to kind of break up the curviness of this object. So now what we'll do is we'll right click, and then we're going to go ahead and edit this line to follow along with our reference image. So we'll do just like we did before. We're going to select these vertices, we'll right click, and we'll go to Bezier corner, and then we'll adjust the handles accordingly. So we'll do Bezier corner, try to match up our object here the best of our ability, and this is turning out pretty nicely. Now, like I said, you just got to be patient with this. This can be a really fun process. This is probably one of my preferred methods to hard surface modeling. Depending on the actual complexity of the object itself, I can see that it's really helpful with like objects like vehicles and things like that. Now, if we get into some more complex objects, maybe you might want to try a different method, depending on whatever works for you. Throughout this lesson, you're really going to find some methods that really work for you and your style, and you're going to discover the tools that you yourself are going to use. Alright, so we've drawn out this line, and what we want to do is go ahead and do another line that pretty much just matches right underneath the existing line that we just created. Now, I'm not going to go ahead and draw that at this point. What I want to do is go ahead and just stop the lesson right here, and in the next lesson we'll have that line. So I think at this point you could go ahead and draw the next line, and then we'll start right back up in the next lesson. Now in the next lesson, what we're going to do is we're going to finish out this spline cage, and then we're going to apply our surface modifier and make this some 3D geometry and really resurface